Imagine a world where we don't have to agree on everything to actually trust each other. Does that sound like a pipe dream or maybe just a lost art? Honestly, Selena, looking at the news today, it feels like we're further from that than ever.
It certainly feels that way, Alex. We are living through what many social scientists call the Great Fragmentation. But that's exactly why we're diving into a fascinating document today called the Great Human Concord. It's a foundational white paper that proposes a way back to each other.
I love the motto they have right at the top: different paths, one humanity, shared destiny. It's simple, but it hits hard. It acknowledges that we aren't all going to walk the same road, but we are all in the same boat.
Exactly. The Concord isn't trying to force everyone into a single ideology or a global monoculture. It's actually the opposite. It's a social framework designed to protect our unique identities while building a bridge of respect between them.
So it's not about making us all the same, because I think that's what people fear, that unity means uniformity. But you're saying the Concord sees our differences as something to be preserved, not erased?
Precisely. The document explicitly says its purpose is not to eliminate differences, but to create an environment where those differences can exist without turning into hostility. It's about making cooperation more valuable than division, which is a massive shift in perspective.
Wait, let's look at the problem statement section for a second. It lists things like declining trust, social fragmentation, and the breakdown of community. I mean, we see this every day on social media, right? People are just stuck in their own echo chambers.
Oh, absolutely. We've built these digital silos where we only hear what we already believe. The Concord points out that this leads to a loss of shared civic values. We've forgotten how to speak a common ethical language, Alex. We're losing the ability to even define what a good neighbor looks like.
And that leads to that loneliness epidemic they mentioned. If we can't trust the people around us because they think differently, we end up isolated. It's like we're all living in the same apartment building, but we're terrified of the person in 4B because of a lawn sign they have.
That is such a perfect analogy. We are physically close, but socially miles apart. The Great Human Concord wants to address this by focusing on foundational principles that transcend politics or religion. They call them the 7 pillars. Shall we break those down?
Let's do it. The first one is human dignity. Now, that sounds like a standard term, but the Concord says every person possesses intrinsic worth. What does that mean in a practical, everyday sense, Selena?
It means that a person's value isn't tied to their productivity, their status, or their opinions. It's inherent. If you truly believe in intrinsic dignity, you can't treat someone as disposable just because they're on the wrong side of a debate. You have to start from a place of basic worth.
That's a high bar. It's easy to say everyone has dignity until they say something you find offensive. Then, suddenly, we want to strip that dignity away. The Concord is saying no, the dignity stays, even when the agreement goes.
Exactly. And that leads directly into Pillar 2, mutual respect. The paper says respect should be extended even amidst disagreement. It's about respect before judgment. Think about how much our world would change if we just paused to understand before we condemned.
I'm guilty of that, honestly. I'll see a headline and immediately form a judgment. But the Concord is pushing for dialogue before conflict. It's about asking, why do you see it that way? Instead of just saying, you're wrong and I'm right.
It's about intellectual humility, Alex, recognizing that we might not have the full picture. When we choose dialogue, we aren't necessarily giving up our own views. We're just acknowledging that the other person is a human being with a story.
Okay, Pillar 3 is a big one. Responsibility. The document says, freedom and responsibility remain inseparable. I feel like we talk a lot about our rights these days, but maybe not as much about our responsibilities to the collective.
That is a crucial point. In many modern societies, we've hyper-focused on individual liberty, but the Concord argues that true freedom can't survive without responsibility. If I have the freedom to speak, I have the responsibility to speak truthfully and with care for the impact of my words.
So it's like a social contract. I get to be free, but I also have to show up for the community. It reminds me of that idea that your right to swing your fist ends where my nose begins. But the Concord takes it further. It's not just about not hitting people, it's about actively contributing.
Precisely. It's about service before self-interest. That's a radical idea in a world that often tells us to get ours first. Pillar 4 is compassion, which the Concord describes as a strength enhanced by empathy. It's not a weakness, it's a tool for social cohesion.
I love that. Strength is enhanced by empathy. Usually we think of strength as being tough or unyielding. But Selena, if you can't feel what someone else is going through, how can you ever hope to build a stable society with them?
You can't. Without compassion, you just have a collection of individuals competing for resources. You don't have a community, and that brings us to Pillar 5. Cooperation. The goal here is to accelerate progress through collaboration. It's the idea that 1 + 1 can equal 3 when we work together.
Right, the math of synergy. But cooperation is hard when you don't trust the person next to you. That's why these pillars are stacked, right? You need the dignity and respect first to make the cooperation possible.
Exactly. They are foundational. You can't just jump to shared purpose, which is Pillar 7, without doing the work of Pillars 4 through WAC 6. Speaking of Pillar Series 6, stewardship is one that I think is often overlooked. It says each generation is responsible for the next.
Stewardship. That makes me think of more than just the environment. It's about the institutions we leave behind, the culture we create, and the level of debt, both financial and social, that we pass on. Are we being good ancestors?
That's the question, isn't it? The Concord is challenging us to look past our own lifetimes. It's a generational project. It's about building something that will outlast us. It's very much a planting trees under whose shade we will never sit kind of philosophy.
And then we reach Pillar 7, shared purpose. This is the one humanity, shared destiny part. It's the realization that despite our different paths, we're all heading toward the same future. If the ship goes down, it doesn't matter what deck you are standing on.
That's a powerful image, Alex. We often act like we can win while others lose, but in a globally connected world, that's an illusion. The Concord is trying to wake us up to that reality. It's about finding that common ethical language we mentioned earlier.
I want to pivot for a second to something I found really interesting in the white paper. It mentions this thing called the chosen collective. It says the Concord serves as a bridge between this chosen collective and the global collective. What's the deal there?
So, the chosen collective refers to groups, whether they are organizations, intentional communities, or leadership circles, that have committed themselves to a specific mission or a higher set of ethical standards. Think of them as early adopters of these principles.
Okay. So they aren't better than everyone else, but they've basically said, we're going to be the test case for this. They're trying to lead by example. The paper says they focus on leadership through service rather than authority alone.
Exactly. For the chosen collective, the Concord provides a framework for ethical leadership. It helps them build public trust. In a world where people are skeptical of any group that claims to be special, the Concord says, fine, prove it through your character and your contribution to the common good.
That's a smart way to handle it. It prevents these groups from becoming insular or elitist. Instead of pulling away from society, the Concord forces them to engage more deeply with the global collective, which is the rest of us, using these shared principles.
Right. It's a diplomatic bridge. It allows a group with very specific beliefs to interact with a pluralistic world in a way that is constructive rather than combative. It says, we have our mission, you have yours, but here is the ground we both stand on.
I love that. It's like a set of rules of engagement for a diverse world. Now, let's talk about the strategic objectives. This isn't just a philosophical document. They actually have a plan. They want to launch Concord chapters worldwide. That sounds ambitious.
It is ambitious, but it's necessary if you want to change culture. You can't just have a white paper sitting on a server somewhere. You need people on the ground. These chapters would be local hubs for dialogue and conflict resolution.
Wait, I'm looking at Objective 5, develop ambassador certification programs. So you could actually become a certified Concord ambassador. What would that look like? Do you get a cool hat?
Haha, maybe no hat, Alex, but definitely a lot of training. An ambassador would be someone trained in mediation, ethical leadership, and civic responsibility. They would be the ones going into communities where there's tension and trying to apply these 7 pillars.
That sounds like a job for a superhero, honestly. But in a way, we kind of need civic superheroes right now. People who are brave enough to be reasonable when everyone else is shouting.
That's a great way to put it. It takes a lot of courage to be the person who says, "Niece, let's listen," when everyone else is saying, "Let's fight." The Concord is also looking at youth leadership initiatives. They want to train the next generation before the polarization sets in.
That's probably the most important part. If we can teach kids that strength is enhanced by empathy before they get jaded by the world, we might actually have a chance at a shared destiny that isn't just a disaster movie.
Exactly. They're calling it the Concord Youth Leadership Academy. It's about teaching ethical leadership as a skill, not just a vague idea. And they also mention a Concord Research Institute to study things like social trust and human flourishing.
Oh, I like that. We need data. We need to know what actually works to bring people together. Is it community gardens? Is it shared sports? Is it just having a coffee with someone you disagree with? We need to move beyond vibes and into actual evidence-based social cohesion.
Right. We need to know the mechanics of trust. Why does trust evaporate so quickly? And why does it take so long to build back? If the Research Institute can crack that code, it would be a game changer for how we design our cities, our schools, and even our social media platforms.
Imagine a social media platform designed around the 7 pillars. Instead of an algorithm that promotes outrage, it promotes respect before judgment. I don't know if it would be as addictive, but it would certainly be better for our mental health.
It might not get as many clicks, but it would build a much stronger society. That's the trade-off the Concord is highlighting. Short-term self-interest versus long-term stability and flourishing. It's a classic dilemma, but they're giving us a roadmap to choose the latter.
Let's talk about the Global Summit they mentioned, an annual gathering focused on cooperation. I'm picturing something like Davos, but instead of just talking about money and power, they're talking about dignity and shared purpose.
That's the vision. A place where leaders from all sectors, business, government, grassroots movements, can come together and say, okay, how are we doing on the Concord principles? Where are we failing? And how can we help each other?
It's interesting that they emphasize neutrality in their governance principles. They want to serve people across all backgrounds. That's going to be the hardest part, don't you think? Staying neutral in such a polarized world?
It is incredibly difficult. But neutrality here doesn't mean having no values. It means the principles apply to everyone equally. It's like the rules of a game. The referee is neutral, but the rules are very clear. The Concord is the set of rules that lets us play the game of society without destroying each other.
That's a great distinction, Selena. It's not about being wishy-washy. It's about being fair. And that brings us to transparency and ethical leadership. Holding leaders accountable to these principles. I think people are starving for that.
They really are. We've seen so many institutions fail us. The Concord says, if you want to lead, you have to be transparent and you have to serve the common good. It's a high standard, but it's the only way to restore that declining trust we talked about earlier.
So, looking at the long-term impact section, they're talking about increased social stability, reduced polarization, and stronger family and community relationships. It sounds like a total societal overhaul.
It is. But they're very clear that this isn't a short-term campaign. It's a generational project. We didn't get this polarized overnight, and we won't fix it overnight. It's about moving the needle slowly but surely toward cooperation.
I think that's an important reality check. We often want quick fixes, a new law, a new leader, a new app. But the Concord is saying the fix is is. It's our character, our habits, and how we choose to treat the person across from us.
Exactly, Alex. It's about the micro-interactions. Every time you choose respect over a snarky comment or dialogue over an argument, you're practicing the Concord. It starts small, but it scales up to change the world.
Okay, so if someone is listening to this and they're thinking, I want in. I want to be part of this great human Concord. What's the first step? The document says it's an invitation to humanity.
The first step is internalizing those 7 pillars. Start with human dignity. Try to see the intrinsic worth in everyone you meet today, even the person who cuts you off in traffic, or the person whose political post makes your blood boil.
Oh man, the traffic example. That's where my dignity principle usually goes out the window. But you're right, if I can't even grant dignity to a stranger in a car, how can I expect to build a shared destiny with them?
It's a practice, Alex, like a muscle. You have to train it. And then, once you've started that internal work, you look for ways to cooperate. Look for the shared purpose. Persis, in your local community, what's one thing you and your neighbors can agree on? Maybe it's just a cleaner park or a safer street.
Start with the low-hanging fruit of cooperation. I like that. It builds the trust muscle. And then maybe you join a local community harmony council or a service initiative like the paper suggests.
Exactly. It's about creating wins for the community. When people see that cooperation actually works, that it makes their lives better, they'll want more of it. It's a positive feedback loop.
It's funny, we often think of peace as just the absence of war. But the Great Human Concord makes it sound like peace is something much more active. It's a durable framework that we have to build and maintain every day.
That is such a profound point. Peace isn't a static state. It's a dynamic process. It requires constant stewardship and responsibility. It's not something we achieve and then forget about. We have to keep choosing it.
You know, Selena, one thing that really struck me in the conclusion of the white paper is the line, "The future of humanity will not be determined solely by technological innovation or economic expansion. It will also be determined by humanity's capacity to trust, cooperate, and work together."
That's the heart of the whole thing. We spend so much time talking about AI or space travel or the stock market, and those things are important, but they're just tools. If the people using those tools don't have trust or dignity, the tools won't save us.
It's like giving a high-tech power tool to someone who doesn't know how to build a house. Or worse, someone who wants to tear it down. The technology just amplifies who we already are. The Concord is trying to make sure we are the kind of people who build.
Exactly. It's about the human software. We need an upgrade. Our current social operating system is glitching. It's full of bugs like polarization and mistrust. The Great Human Concord is like a massive patch update for our collective ethics.
I love that. Social OS 2.0. Now, I'm curious about the founder, Sebastianis Christiani Alvarius. The document says it was prepared by him and TNTI Global Media. It feels like a very visionary project.
It definitely is. It's coming from a place that wants to bridge the gap between media, technology, and human values. They're saying that media shouldn't just be about content, but about connection. It should be a tool for the Concord, not for division.
That would be a welcome change. Imagine a media landscape where the goal isn't to get you angry, but to help you understand. Where the breaking news is about a successful cooperation project instead of a new conflict.
It sounds like a different world, doesn't it? But it's a world we can build. That's the invitation the Concord is extending. It's not just a nice idea, it's a call to action. It's asking us to be architects of the Concord in our own lives.
I'm in. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I'm still going to get annoyed in traffic, and I'm still going to disagree with people. But I like the idea of having these 7 pillars to lean on when things get tough.
Me too, Alex. It's about having a North Star. Even if we wander off the path sometimes, we know which way we're supposed to be heading. Toward dignity, toward respect, and ultimately, toward that shared destiny.
So, to wrap this up, if you had to give our listeners one aha moment from the Great Human Concord, what would it be?
I think it's the realization that my flourishing is tied to yours. That shared destiny isn't just a poetic phrase. It's a biological and social reality. When I protect your dignity, I'm actually protecting the fabric of the world I live in too.
Wow. When I protect your dignity, I'm protecting my own world. That's a powerful shift from me versus you to us versus the problem. Selena, thanks for walking me through this. It's given me a lot to think about.
My pleasure, Alex. It's a big topic, but it's one that really matters. I hope our listeners feel that same invitation to explore these principles in their own communities.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, maybe today is the day you try out respect before judgment. Just once. See how it feels to ask a question instead of making a statement. You might be surprised by what you find.
It's the first step on a long road, but it's a road worth walking. Different paths, but one humanity. I really believe that if we can get this right, the future is incredibly bright.
Well said. Let's keep building those bridges, Selena. And to all of you out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Great Human Concord. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.
Take care, everyone. Let's make that shared destiny a reality, one conversation at a time.
Wait, before we go, I just had one more thought about the stewardship pillar. It's not just about the future, is it? It's also about how we treat our history. The Concord says it's a generational project, which means we're also stewards of the wisdom that came before us.
That's a brilliant point, Alex. We aren't starting from scratch. We're building on thousands of years of human struggle to figure out how to live together. The Concord is just the latest, and perhaps most urgent attempt to synthesize that wisdom for the modern age.
Right, it's like we're taking the best parts of our past, the ideas of justice, mercy, and community, and giving them a new framework that can handle the complexities of the 21st century. It's about making those old values future-proof.
Future-proofing our ethics. I love that. It's about ensuring that as our technology gets more powerful, our morality keeps pace. We don't want to be technological giants and ethical midgets, as Martin Luther King Jr. once warned.
Exactly. The Concord is the gym where we go to bulk up our ethical muscles. It's about becoming the kind of species that can actually handle the power we've created. It's a sobering thought, but also an incredibly hopeful one.
It is. It puts the power back in our hands. It says that the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create through our daily choices. And that, Alex, is the most empowering message of all.
It really is. Okay, now I'm really ready to go out there and try this. Thanks again, Selena. This has been an incredible conversation.
Anytime, Alex. Let's see what kind of world we can build together.
Let's do it. See you next time, everyone.
Goodbye for now.
Actually, Selena, I was just thinking about the compassion pillar again. The white paper says, strength is enhanced by empathy. You mentioned it's not a weakness, but in a competitive business world, for example, how does that actually play out? Doesn't empathy make you a target?
That's a common misconception, Alex. But look at the most successful leaders today. They aren't the old-school command and control types. They are the ones who can read a room, who understand their employees' needs, and who build high-trust cultures. Empathy is actually a competitive advantage.
So you're saying that if I understand what's driving you, I can work with you more effectively? It's not about being soft, it's about being smart, about human relationships.
Exactly. It's social intelligence. If a leader has compassion, they can spot burnout before it happens. They can resolve team conflicts before they explode. And they can inspire loyalty. That's real power, Alex. It's a lot more durable than power based on fear.
That makes so much sense. It connects back to cooperation. You can't have true, high-level cooperation if everyone is looking over their shoulder, afraid of being exploited. Compassion creates the psychological safety needed for innovation.
Spot on. Google actually did a massive study on this, Project Aristotle, and they found that psychological safety, which is rooted in empathy and respect, was the #1 predictor of a team's success. The Concord is basically taking that principle and trying to apply it to the whole world.
Wow, so the data's already there. We know it works in small teams. The challenge is scaling it up to 8 billion people. It's like the ultimate engineering problem, but for the human heart.
It really is. And that's why the Concord Research Institute is so vital. We need to find those scaling factors. How do we take the trust that exists in a small village and replicate it in a global digital community?
I'm also thinking about the responsibility pillar in the context of the environment. If we are stewards for future generations, then our responsibility isn't just to each other, but to the planet itself. The Concord seems to imply a very holistic view of shared destiny.
It does. You can't have a flourishing humanity on a dying planet. Our destiny is tied to the health of our ecosystems. So, stewardship in the Concord sense includes being responsible for the air, the water, and the biodiversity that sustains us all.
It's all connected. Dignity for people, respect for different views, responsibility for our actions, compassion for all life, cooperation for progress, stewardship for the future, and a shared purpose to tie it all together. It's a complete system.
It's a beautiful system, Alex. It's elegant and it's robust. It's not just a list of nice things to do. It's a coherent philosophy for a global age. It's the common ethical language we've been missing.
I'm also curious about the community harmony councils. The paper says they are local groups focused on dialogue and conflict prevention. Have you seen anything like that in action, Selena?
There are similar models, like restorative justice circles or town hall mediation groups, but the Concord's version would be proactive, not just reactive. They wouldn't wait for a crisis. They would be working constantly to build relationships between different groups in the community before tension arises.
Like a social preventative medicine. You don't wait for the heart attack. You eat well and exercise. The harmony councils are the social exercise that keeps the community's heart healthy.
That is a perfect metaphor. We spend so much energy on crisis management, trying to put out fires after they've already started. The Concord is saying, let's spend that energy on fire prevention instead. Let's build such strong relationships that the sparks of disagreement don't turn into a conflagration.
It's a much better use of resources than think of the billions of dollars spent on conflict, legal fees, security, lost productivity, not to mention the human cost. If we invested even a fraction of that into the Concord framework, the ROI would be astronomical.
The economic argument for the Concord is actually very strong. Trust is a lubricant for the economy. When trust is high, transactions are faster and cheaper. When trust is low, everything grinds to a halt. So, even from a purely financial perspective, the Concord makes sense.
So, whether you're a humanist, a business leader, an environmentalist, or just someone who's tired of all the shouting, there's something in this for you. It really is a universal accord.
It really is. It's inclusive in the truest sense of the word. It doesn't exclude anyone based on their starting point. It only asks where they are willing to go. And where we're going is toward a shared destiny.
I think that's a great place to finally leave it. It's been a long conversation, Selena, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what's possible with this framework.
I agree, Alex. There's so much more to explore, especially as the Concord starts to be implemented around the world. I'm looking forward to seeing those first ambassadors in action.
Me too. Maybe we'll have one on the show someday. For now, thanks to everyone for listening. We hope this conversation has inspired you to think about how you can bring a little more Concord into your own life.
Remember, different paths, one humanity, shared destiny. Let's make it a good one.
Absolutely. Signing off now. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Wait, Selena, I just realized something. We talked about the chosen collective as leaders, but the white paper also says they are a diplomatic bridge. That means they have to be able to speak both languages, right? The language of their specific group and the common ethical language of the Concord.
Yes, that's a crucial skill. It's like being bilingual. You have your mother tongue, your personal beliefs and values, but you also have your lingua franca, the shared principles of the Concord that allow you to communicate with everyone else.
That is such a powerful idea. It means you don't have to give up your identity to be a global citizen. You just have to learn a second language, the language of respect and dignity.
Exactly. And the more people who are bilingual in this way, the more connected our world becomes. The gaps between our silos start to close because there are people who can walk between them and facilitate understanding.
It's like building a global network of translators for the human spirit. That's a vision I can really get behind. Okay, now I'm really done. For real this time.
Haha. I believe you, Alex. It's just such a rich topic. It's hard to stop. But let's let our listeners go and start practicing their second language.
Good call. Happy translating it, everyone.
Bye.